want to disturb her. So let's leave here and see what else we can find. I do hope we have our luck with us. Last time, of course, I was with you. We saw 2 little baby leopard cubs. There. Look at the rest of the hyenas there. That's the rest of the clan, everybody. There's some little ones. What we're going to do, I'm just going to try and move around a bit and see if we can't get a slightly better view of them. I'm pretty sure we will be able to. I didn't think that they were around. It's like an elephant, they're going to go running away. Because the Land Rover, as you know, all cars are big and they can be noisy and they don't smell quite like a hyena. So they smell very strange to these hyenas. We've got very powerful noses. Let's stop over here. Now, Mia, while we look at those little ones, you want to know how old a hyena can grow up to be. A hyena doesn't live very long, you know. Probably only about 12 or 13 years. And that's because life is tough out here. That's a hyena mother with her 2 cubs. I think those were the cubs, if I'm not mistaken, born in January. That's the matriarch, I think. I think that's the matriarch, madam, and I think those are her 2 cubs. So Mia, probably only 12 or 13 years out here, but you know, in captivity life is a bit easier. So if you have a hyena in a zoo, for example, you'll probably find that they live for up to 20 years. But out here, life's a bit tough, and the life, you know, strains of being physical and having to fight each other for food and fight lions for food, that takes its toll on their lives. Now, when I say matriarch, do you all know what a matriarch is? A matriarch, everyone, is a female who is the leader of a group. And there are 2 societies out here that are matriarchal. 1, the hyenas, and 2, the elephants. And in the case of the hyena, their queen or their matriarch, who is this hyena we're looking at now, she leads everything. She is more dominant than the males, so she tells all the males what to do. It's probably a bit like your mothers tell your father what to do, I'm sure, sometimes. And sometimes the other way around, possibly. But with the hyenas, it's always the mother that tells the males what to do. The males are smaller than the hyenas. Now, you know from just about all the animals you've ever seen before that the male is normally bigger than the female, just like with human beings. Well, the hyenas, it's different. And so she is the dominant. She tells everyone else what to do, and all the other females are beneath her. So she's a bit like a royal queen. Now what I'm going to try and do is sneak a little bit closer. Once they've got used to us, what you do here, everyone, is you drive slowly closer and closer so that they don't get a big fright when you get close to start with. And we move very slowly, because the slower you move, the less threatening you are. See, if they do get a fright, they'll just go running down into the riverbed there, and then we won't see them again. So we need to move very slowly. But these hyenas, I know when they were at their last den, they used to come right up to the car. But because they don't have the protection of a den around them now, they might just run away. So we'll be very careful. Isn't that nice? I think that's fantastic. Now we recognize this female hyena from the fact that her ears are a bit mangled. Can you see that? They look like they've been bitten or that she's run through a thorn bush. And that's simply because she is the matriarch. She's quite old now. Well, she's probably about 9 years old, I guess. But she will have a fight over food. Hyenas are not very good at sharing. So when they find something to eat, they fight with each other. And that's why their ears get bitten. Now, Cachet, nice question from you. You say, do I ever get lost in the game reserve? I don't anymore. I certainly used to. You know, this is kind of an area I've been driving around for a while now, and so I know it very well. And therefore, even if it's cloudy or nighttime, I can see where I am. But if you come to an area for the first time, so my first few months here, yes, I used to get lost all the time. But that's okay. It's quite fun to be lost, because finding your way back home is a journey of discovery. But you do need to be careful in a wilderness area that you have an idea where you are always, because you don't want to get lost in the wilderness with no idea how to get back home or back to camp. This is a lovely sighting of hyenas. I'm very lucky to see this, especially as they aren't in the den. I'm just keeping an eye on the den site. And I don't see the little ones out yet, just the mother. So they're suckling, and they might look a little bit big for suckling. And hyenas will suckle sometimes for up to a year. Now that for a carnivore is a very long time. You all know what suckling is, of course. And little baby leopards will probably stop suckling at almost just after 3 months old. They'll stop suckling. Baby lions about 6 months maybe. These hyenas, which are about the same size as a leopard, much longer. All right, let's head across to Brent and see if he's had any luck with the leopard tracks.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We are checking for leopards. This is near where we saw that first leopard on the first drive. So I'm hoping to find some footprints, but no luck yet. But it is a beautiful morning. Now we're going to go head towards a water hole, see if there's anything there. Now, if you can, in this beautiful light this morning, you can see all the different colors on the leaves as they're changing. And soon, a lot of these trees are not going to have any leaves. Oh! Hello, little ones. A little family of Natal franklins. Oh, there's a very good mommy to raise that many babies. I actually think there are 2 mommies there. So they normally only have 2 eggs. And they nest on the ground, so the eggs are very, very camouflaged. So they can't be found by things like mongoose, and even leopards will eat the eggs. It's always good when you're in the bush, you must just switch off and you keep quiet. You never know what you might hear. Quite often your ears find animals before your eyes. But at the moment, all we can hear is the birdies. So what we're listening for is an alarm call. Now, if an impala sees a leopard, he tells all the other impala that the leopard's there. He goes, now, if a kudu sees a leopard, he also tells all the other kudus, but he goes, bah, bah, bah. And what that does is it tells all the other animals that there could be a lion or a leopard around, that they must be careful because there's predators. So that's when we switch off and we listen. That's mostly what we're listening for. Now, when lion and leopard are moving and hunting, they don't make any noise. But when they're trying to tell all the other lions and leopards that this is their place and they mustn't come here, they roar. Now, they've got very different roars. A leopard roar sounds like this. Oh, and a lion roar sounds like this. both males and females roar, and what they're doing is telling all the other lions and leopards around that this is their territory, it's their home, and if they come there, they're going to be in trouble. Sometimes they'll also use it to find each other, but most of the time it's roaring to let all the other lions outside of their area know that they mustn't come here. Now this is a very good habitat for leopard that we're moving into at the moment. And we're looking for leopards, so this is a very good leopard habitat. So you've got lots of these little river beds like this, and we call them dongas. So there's quite a lot of nice deep dongas in this area. There's thick bush on the edge that the leopards can hide in. And even now in the winter months when a lot of the trees are losing their leaves, a lot of these trees around here are going to have leaves. So some nice shade if it gets hot for the leopards to sleep in. There's water close by. Now, leopards don't actually need water. They can survive without ever drinking water. But if there's water available, they'll drink it. Now, one of the trees that you always find in these type of areas is this tree here. Now, this is a tambuti tree. It's actually a very poisonous tree. I'm just going to pick a leaf. And you got to be careful when you pick tambuti leaves. Oh, we're definitely in a drought. That one's got... Let's try to find a better one. Okay, let me just tear it. Maybe that's the answer. Okay, there we go. Now, I'm going to get VM to show you. You see there's a little white spot there. Now you got to be very careful of that little white spot. That's very, very poisonous. So the tambuti tree has this milky latex that's inside, or milky sap. That's very, very poisonous. Now, if you even had to cook on a fire that's from tambuti wood, you would get really, really sick. Now, the other thing you can use this for is if you've got any warts. You can actually put the tambuti juice on the wart and it'll burn it off. So this will burn your skin. Now, certain animals use it as medicine. Baboons, black rhino, kudu, even elephants and giraffes sometimes. If they've got lots of bad hohos and worms in their tummies, what they do is they eat the poison and it clears out their whole tummy of all the bad things. So it's bush medicine for some of the animals. So we're very close to the waterhole now, so let's go see if there's anything there. Okay, so we're nearly at the waterhole. It's just up ahead. So are you guys thinking leopard? I'm thinking leopard. Vilma, are you thinking leopard? We're all thinking leopard, so hopefully the leopard will be there. Okay, we're coming to the waterhole. And no leopard. Oh, well, they must be around the next corner then. And so while we keep checking for the leopards, what have you spotted in the water, VM? Nothing. Vim's just having a look. So we're going to keep checking for the leopards. While we do that, James is still with those wonderful hyenas.
Now everybody, look how pretty the light is. Isn't that beautiful? And that's one of the reasons I live out here in the wilderness. It's because there are so many pretty scenes like this, and the sun has just broken through the clouds, and you can see it's warming the two hyenas who, just like you, they don't like to be cold. And so I'm sure when you have break time there at Rodine, you run out onto the field and they'll sit on the steps in the sun. That's exactly what this hyena is doing. You can see how happy she looks. And you saw there, as her head flicked back, it was because she fell asleep. Just like you sometimes in the afternoons when you're sitting at your desk and the sun is streaming through the classroom on a cold winter's Johannesburg day, and your teacher is talking to you, and sometimes it's difficult to keep your eyes open. And that's exactly what happens with these hyenas. Just the same as us. Now she's fast asleep. Now you might think to yourself, this must be quite dangerous because she's lying on the ground there. And there could be lots of other predators that want to come and maybe harm her, because I don't know that I would lie on the ground quite like that in the middle of the wilderness. But she's a very dominant predator, and the hyenas out here are only dominated by the lions. And the word dominate means that they're only beneath, if you like, they're only beneath the lions. Only a lion can challenge a hyena. Now, Billy, you want to know how many different kinds of hyenas there are. Well, in this area, Billy, there are two, but the other one, the brown hyena, we very, very seldom see. We hardly ever see it. In fact, it's only ever been seen once here on Djuma. But we get, in the world, you get 3 or 4 different kinds of hyenas, and I'll find you a picture of the rest of them. The striped hyena is another that lives up in East Africa largely. We also get something called an aardwolf. Aardwolf, which basically means earth wolf, but it's actually a hyena. And they are found also supposedly in this area, but I've never seen one here before. But only the spotted hyena lives in this group of matriarchal society. It's the only carnivore in the world, as far as I'm aware, that lives in such an amazing society. So, Brian, here are the other ones, if you want to just show the ladies Rodine. There's a spotted hyena. That's the one we're looking at now, of course. There's the brown hyena. Now, many of you will know what Delta Park is. When I say Delta Park, you know where Delta Park is in Johannesburg. Brown hyena was found there about, about a year ago, I think it was. It was spotted there in Delta Park. So they're able to live just about anywhere, which is amazing. And there is the striped hyena. That's found only in East Africa. We don't find them here. Up in East Africa and in North Africa. And there's the aardwolf. And they're much, much smaller. They're sort of probably the size, of a spaniel. Remember, hyenas, although I've compared them with the size of a dog, they are not dogs at all. They're from a totally different family, and they're actually slightly more closely related to cats, but they're actually in a family all on their own called the Hyenidae. And all of those 4 animals live in that same family. But this is the biggest and the most impressive one, the spotted hyena. Oh, you can see how the sun is warming them now, and they're just so very happy. The youngsters have had their milk for the day. Now they're just enjoying snoozing in the sun with their mum. And of course they don't have to go to school like you guys, which means that they get to relax and play all day long. Sounds like a good life, don't you think? I always used to think it sounded like a good life when I was at school, across the road there. Alrighty. Oh. Now apparently there's a question here from an anonymous student. That's interesting that there should be an anonymous student in your class, everyone. That's very interesting indeed. But your question is good, Miss Anonymous. Miss Anonymous, you want to know if hyenas only eat meat? No, they don't. They only eat meat, but they only eat sort of meat products. So the spotted hyena will eat meat and bones and horns sometimes, and you'll even sometimes find teeth in their dung, believe it or not. But they have the most powerful jaws of any mammal in Africa. And so what they're able to do is bite through bones. And inside the bones is a delicious stuff called marrow. And I don't know if you've ever had marrow on toast, but it's delicious. And they have marrow, they like the marrow, it's good for them, it's got lots of fat in it. And I know some people will tell you that fat is not good for you, but fat is actually very good for you, especially if you live out here, where it's what we call a limiting nutrient. That means there's not enough of it. And so the marrow is a really good source of fat, and hyenas with their big strong jaws are able to get at the marrow inside the bones. Now the brown hyena will eat some fruit even. They will eat the odd bit of fruit if they can find it, as will the striped hyena. And the aardwolf Well, his main food is actually termites and ants. So they don't, while I suppose that you might think of that as meat, it's not quite the same as the meat that the spotted hyena eats. And everyone thinks a spotted hyena is a scavenger, which, I know that you've all seen The Lion King, and you see that all the baddies in The Lion King, of course, are hyenas. Well, hyenas are not really like that. That's not very fair. Hyenas are actually very good hunters. You can see they're wonderful mothers. This mother is looking after her babies exactly the same as your mothers look after you. And they're very good hunters. And they actually steal less than male lions do, believe it or not. And they didn't tell you that in The Lion King, did they? You can just see her eyes are very heavy. Wants to have a snooze. So often you mustn't believe what you see on the TV or in stories, because hyenas are actually very, very clever. Hello, Kada. Kada, you want to know how many hyenas there are in a group. Well, Kada, it just depends on the group. How best to describe this? This particular group's probably got about 20 hyenas in it, but we know of another group that's just to the west of us on a reserve called Elephant Plains, and that hyena group's got 50 in it. And then there's one down further to the south of us at a place called Londolozi, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, that has at least sort of 30 or 40 hyenas in it. So this is quite a small group of 20, and they're not always together. So you can only see 3 of them here. We saw the other one in the den and one other sort of sub-adult one, not quite a big adult yet, when we came here. But the rest of them will be lying around the place within the territory. So they've got a territory, which means they've got an area that they live in. Only they live in it, and they won't have any other hyenas in that area. The rest of the group of the 20 of them will be around the area, lying under bushes and perhaps resting in the sunshine, just like this one is. And then if they find something that they want to steal and they need help stealing it, well, then they'll make a big noise and the others will come and help. Otherwise, they just sort of forage, which means to look for food. They forage around on their own. And I believe you're all going off towards Delta Park tomorrow. Well, that'll be good. Look out for a brown hyena. See if you can spot a brown hyena there. That would be very, very exciting indeed. Right, we're going to head away from here. Brenty has got an animal that looks very similar to this from the shape, but is from a completely different group of animals. Go and have a look.
So we've got some wildebeest. And we saw some yesterday as well, but far, far away. Now, wildebeest are quite funny-looking creatures. Now, I'm going to see who at Rodine can remember what animal do you sometimes find or quite often find with the wildebeest. It also eats grass. So why don't you guys tell me what is the other animal you see with wildebeest? And you can see the wildebeest are using this very specific habitat. It's a habitat called a seep line. So that means there's water under the ground here and there's a lot more grass. And that's what they're doing. They're eating the grass. And wildebeest are very fussy eaters. So they like their grass short, and they like very specific species of grass. Now there's the big daddy. So he stays here in this area. He's that territorial male, and the females move between different males' areas. They're very, very relaxed at the moment, the wildies, having a nice morning munch. And here we go. Hello, Mr. Wildebeest. So, because it's a drought, we might find some wildebeest in areas that they not normally are. Look at that. See how he's picking his way between the different species of grass. Hi, Malaria. Malaria is wondering what animal is the biggest threat to a lion. Malaria, other lions are the biggest threat to lions. Very seldom hyenas, but to a male lion, the biggest threat to a male lion is another male lion. We're going to keep moving along here, let the wildebeest have their breakfast. Now, in this particular habitat, we have one of the types of trees that's very common here is called a terminalia, or a cluster leaf. Now, I'm sure a few of you are having troubles with your big teeth coming out. Now, baby elephants also have a trouble when their teeth start coming out. And one of the trees they eat when they have trouble with their teeth coming out is this tree, the silver cluster leaf. Now, if I chew these leaves, that's how much I like you, because they're not very tasty. What will happen is it'll start numbing my gums. So to help the baby elephant when its teeth are hurting and pushing through, they eat these leaves. Yeah. And you can taste all the tannins. And the tannins are what help numb the gums. So also, in the bush a long time ago, when people used to live without modern medicine and that, people also used to chew on these leaves when they had sore teeth. I'm not going to chew on it too much. I don't have any sore teeth. But it doesn't taste nice, even if you bite in it. It also dries your mouth out. Foof. Let's carry on. Now, I am hoping that our leopard luck hasn't run out. But if it has, there's still so many wonderful things out here in the bush that we can show you and talk about. And yesterday we spoke about the termite mound being a habitat in itself. And you can see that all sorts of creatures use termite mounds, like those hyenas you've seen with James. Hi, Grace. Grace would like to know, how big is a male leopard? In its height, it's about the same height as I'm trying to think, what do you think, an Alsatian. As a dog, like a police dog, it's about the same height, but it's much heavier, much thicker. So it weighs about, a really big male leopard weighs about the same as me, which is about 90 kilograms. And length without their tail, they're probably about as long as my arms, I think. Oh, there we go. About as long as my arms. But with their tail, obviously, they're much longer. So probably about between about 1.8 meters for a big male leopard is his length without his tail. Now, if we can't find any leopards, I think we should look for some elephants. Now, there have been lots of elephants around, tracks all over the place, so hopefully we find some. Hi, Nuha. Nuha would like to know what animals we don't have in the Sabi Sand Game Reserve. Well, in terms of African animals, we don't have any of the animals that live in a very different habitat called the rainforest. Now, the rainforest is further to the north and west, and most of the rainforest is in a country called Congo, or the Democratic Republic of Congo. So in those rainforests, you get animals like chimpanzees and gorillas, and lots of different monkey species. Let me try and think what else is up in the rainforest that we don't get here. Oh, lots of things, lots of different little duikers, and they've even got different crocodiles in the rainforest from the ones we get in the bush. And then if we go across to the east of Africa, we've got some gazelles. We don't have any gazelles in the Sabi Sands. And if you also look to the desert areas, we don't have any gemsbok, we don't have any springbok, and we don't have any, Wim, can you think of anything else from the deserts? Hartebeest, foxes, Cape fox, bat-eared fox. So there are different animals that are designed specifically for different habitats. So animals that we get here, you might not get in those habitats. Now, you have some animals that you would call generalists. A really good generalist is an impala, and they can occur from almost true desert to the edge of the rainforest. So they are able to generally survive in most habitats. They won't be in the driest desert, and they won't be in the wettest rainforest. Now, the same goes for birds. Certain birds specialize in certain habitats. Okay, now let's have a look here. Is there any tracks on the road? No tracks. Oh, there's a track. What was that? Well done, ladies. You are spot on, right on the money. The animal you often find with wildebeest when they're grazing is a zebra. Aren't you a clever bunch? So while we keep looking for other animals out here, let's go see what James is up to on the other vehicle.
Look, everybody, it's an enormous piece of dung, aka poo. Now, this particular piece of poo has one of the best smells in the bush. Let's give Brian a smell. Brian, would you like a smell?
I'll have a smell.
Now, I'm not joking, everyone. This is elephant dung, obviously. Look how big it is. It's bigger than my head. See? And elephant dung actually smells very good. And that's because it's got all sorts of different things in it. And an elephant's digestive system, well, you know that I'm sure you've all seen horse's dung before. You probably also picked it up. And it's not smelly at all. It's just grass, basically. But an elephant eats so many different kinds of things. Let's have a look here. See, it's eating sticks. It's eating bits and pieces of grass. That's actually also stick. Let's see if we can find some leaves. There we go. It's eating leaves. They'll eat grass. They eat seed pods. They'll eat fruit. And all of that means that when you smell their dung, it's not great when it's just come out, but this dung is probably about 2 days old. And the smell is just so nice. It smells like, you know that feeling you get when the lawn at home has just been mowed and you smell that fresh green grass? It doesn't smell quite like that, but it gives me the same comforting feeling. It smells a little bit like a potpourri. You can ask your teacher what potpourri is. All right, on we go. Let's see what else we can find around the corner here. There's a little water hole. I'm hoping there might be an animal there. Now, the animals, often a water hole, as many of you will know, because I'm sure lots of you have been to the Kruger Park. If you come across a water hole and it's very hot, you're likely to see animals there. But we're not very close. It's not very hot today. You can still see I've got my jacket on. It's not as cold as it is in Johannesburg, but it's still quite cold, and so the animals are not coming down to have anything to drink just yet. But there is a bird. Well, let's just have a quick look over here. Here's the little water hole, everyone, and at it there is something called an emerald spotted wood dove. An emerald spotted wood dove, which I think is a lovely name for a bird. And it's just looking around there for something to drink. And Timmerly, you want to know why, there it is, you want to know why hyenas have got a furry skin. Well, Timmerly, it's the same reason that you wear a jersey. Can you imagine wandering around without a jersey in the middle of winter in Johannesburg? Well, you'll be very cold, wouldn't you? That's why all animals have got fur on their skin. And you'll find the bigger the animal gets in this area, the less fur it has. So a buffalo's got sort of some fur, but not very much. And an elephant has got almost no fur at all. So the bigger you are, the less the cold tends to affect you. The smaller you are, and some of the smallest mammals we get out here are little gerbils. Now, a gerbil is like a hamster, if you like, and they live under the ground because they get very cold and they've got very thick fur. And a hyena, of course, somewhere between the size of a gerbil and an elephant. So they have fur just to stay warm. And we are mammals, remember? We, just like the hyenas and the wildebeest that you've seen, and the elephants, and all of those sort of things are mammals. And that means that we make our own heat inside us. So we're not like a crocodile or a lizard. You've all seen a lizard lying in the sun, haven't you? And they lie in the sun like that because that's the only way they can stay warm. If they are out of the sun, then their body temperature starts to drop. And then they can't move properly, and it's difficult for them to move. But we, much like all of the other mammals out here, we make our own heat inside us. And that's why we have to it's important for us to maintain that temperature. You know that your temperature is about 36.5 to 37 degrees. And when your mother says to you, you've got a temperature, it means your temperature's gone too high. Well, it's also very dangerous if your temperature goes too low. And that's why we wear clothes to stay warm and why we stay inside a house. And it's the same, obviously you can't stay inside a house if you're a little hyena. And so you've got to have thick fur to stay warm. Whereas the reptiles, the lizards and the crocodiles and the snakes, they don't have to worry about that sort of stuff because they are what we call cold-blooded. There's an impala. Sorry, Ambrin, I missed your name, your question. Please will you send it through again? Oh, you say, why do hyenas have little manes? That's a nice observation, Ambrin. I'm not really sure I know the answer. Here we've got a very interesting little group of animals. We've got one impala, that's the one just behind there, and we've got the rest of them being kudu. Now I'm going to ask you all a question, and I want you to try and send through the answers as quick as you can. Why do you think one male impala would be hanging around with a whole lot of kudus? Why would an impala hang around with some kudus? What do you think the advantage would be? Why would it be a good idea for that impala to hang around with all those kudus? So while you think about that, my friend Brent has found something very, very special to show you.
Yay, elephants! Little breeding herd of elephants. So I can see 2 moms and 2 babies, and let me move forward a little bit. The one baby's drinking mom's milk. Oh, now he's finished drinking now. Now it looks like a little boy. Now little boy elephants can be quite fun because they come right up to inspect us. Look at him, he looks like he's on his way to give us an inspection. Hello, little mister. Hello, little horror. Kada's wondering if I've ever been charged by an elephant. I have quite a few times, Kada, but only really badly once. Normally, you can stop an elephant charge by shouting at them and telling them to behave themselves. They normally listen quite nicely. Now, even though he was drinking milk, he's also at the age where he's starting to eat plants as well, but most of his nutrients will come from his mom's milk. So when they're younger than this, they still have to learn how to use their trunk, the little ellies. And you can see how good mom is with her trunk. And she's eating that Dicrostachys or sickle bush. Now, here we go. See, he's trying to sneak closer to us. Yes, hello. And when he puts his nose out, he's actually trying to give us a sniff. Hello, little naughty. So he's about 4 meters from us at the moment, maybe 5. Now, this is very normal little ellie behavior. They like to sort of sneak up behind you. Well, Ambrin's wondering about elephant toes and why do they have 2, not 5? Well, they actually do have, I think, yes, they do have 5. Vem's going to show you the toes. You can actually see the toenails, but you'll only ever be able to see 4 of the toenails. and the fifth, or the thumb, is at the back. Now, elephants got a very interesting shape in their feet. So, although it looks like very flat like that, they're actually sort of standing on tippy toes at the whole time. Now, inside an elephant's foot, there's a big sponge. Oh, hello, naughty. They are very cute little ellies. Now, I'll show you with my hand what the inside of an elephant foot looks like just now. Let's just stick with these ellies while this little one's coming closer. Hey, naughty. Now, it's very important when you're with elephants not to watch the big females and their behavior. And they give you lots of telltale signs when they're upset. These ones are not upset at all. Their tails are hanging loosely. And their body language is telling me that they're very, very relaxed. And the little ones often shake their heads at you and trumpet. He just did it. Hey, naughty. He's bored of us now. So let me just show you what the inside of an elephant's foot looks like quickly. So basically, an elephant's got their toes and it sits like this. So there's bones like that, and that's where the toenails are. But inside here is a big sponge. It's like a big sponge because elephant's so heavy it needs that sponge to take the weight. So it's like a big shock absorber inside an elephant's foot. Oh, there's the other baby over there. So all we can see is 2 females and 2 babies. Now, in a little group like this, they will all be related. It's a strong possibility, looking at the age of the big females, that they might be sisters. Or if not sisters, definitely cousins. And see how an elephant uses its feet to break things out of the ground. You can just hear the branches breaking all around us from the ellies. So when they're eating branches, what they're after is actually the little layer under the bark. Oh. They've got such a good sense of smell. You sort of blow out there. Now it's smelling for the different plants that it can eat, and that'll be good for it. Oh, hello, Vin. Little one's back, giving us the ears out. So these little ones are probably just under 2 years old. Oh, there we go. There we go. Hello. Hello, Trouble. Hello, Naughty. Now, that is less than 30 centimeters from the front of the car. And here comes Mom. I heard a little rumble there. I think Mom told the little one to behave and stop playing with the car. That was wonderful. Hi, Nahar. Nahar is wondering how long elephants live for. Well, Nahar, elephants live for about 65 years. They have 6 sets of teeth over their life, and when their last set of teeth is worn down, that's when they normally die. Very, very cute. Now, we've talked about elephants being able to change the habitat. And if we have a broader look around us, you can see this female here is keeping that sickle bush short. And you can, if we come out to the left slightly then. Now, there's a piece of dead sickle bush there. So these elephants have probably been feeding off the sickle bush for many years. And they don't like sickle bush when they get old and big. So elephants almost farm their favorite trees that they eat to keep them nice and small and short and keep them growing and tasty. Let's just move around. It's walking behind us. Oh! Look at him playing. He's sitting on his bum. He's just playing. Or are the two going to play with each other? This could be fun. Young elephants like to wrestle and push each other around quite a bit. So they're not so worried about eating all the time because they're still relying on their mom's milk. Now, George is wondering, why do elephants have tusks? Well, in female elephants, Georgia, they help the elephant with their feeding. They use their tusks to take bark off trees. They use their tusks to defend themselves as well. Now, male elephants, they're also used for feeding, but they're more important for fighting. So when they're looking for girlfriends, the male elephants will use those tusks to fight amongst each other like swords. And whoever's got the strongest and best tusks and the best swordsman will win all the girlfriends. But they're not feeding off anything that they need their tusks for at the moment. But they'll use them to break branches. They'll use them to, as I said, take off bark. They'll even use them to dig out mud. Now, elephants eat quite a bit of mud, but only certain types of mud. Mud that's got lots of salt in it. So lots of minerals. So like I'm sure your mom and dads make you take vitamins. Look at that. Look how strong she is. She's moving a dead branch to get to the grass that's growing underneath that the other animals haven't been able to get to. So she just moved half a tree to get to that grass. It's so nice sitting with elephants. So we're going to leave these Ellies to carry on munching their breakfast. While we do that, let's go back to James, who's got another member of Africa's Big Five.
There, everybody, is a buffalo, and it's a small group of buffalo, only 6 of them. That's quite unusual. There are probably some more through there in the bush. Deep down in the bush there. And buffalo are the equivalent, basically, they're like wild cows. And that's not to insult them at all, they're magnificent creatures. But that's what they look like, isn't it? And that's what they smell like. It's how their bodies work. And you know what? You can actually drink buffalo milk. Apparently it's quite nice. But you can't milk a buffalo. It's very difficult to milk a buffalo because they're not very friendly to human beings. They get very scared of us very quickly. And you will hear people tell you that buffalo are very dangerous. Now, I want you to remember one thing from today, everyone. I want you to remember that no animal out here is dangerous all the time. Animals are only dangerous when they are scared. So you remember that. And if you remember that, and if you don't ever make the animal scared, remember these animals, although they're much bigger than us, they are scared of us as human beings. So if I got out of the car, they would run away. And if you get them into a position where you give them a fright and they can't run away, then animals can become dangerous. So please don't go away from this lesson thinking that any animal is dangerous by nature. They aren't, you know. By and large, they just want to be peaceful and get on with their lives. Some lovely answers to my little quiz there about the impala ram and the kudu cows. Gracie, you say that impala ram was looking for girlfriends. He might have been, but those are kudus. They're not impalas, so they're not going to make very good girlfriends to him. They're much bigger than him, and they're different animals entirely. Kada, you say it's for protection, and that's exactly why an impala ram would be around animals of a different kind. Because, of course, he can't see everything going on around him. Those kudu will help him to see and hear and smell any predators that might be around. So, yes, that's exactly why the impala ram was with the kudu. It wasn't because he was looking for girlfriends, Gracie. Now you can hear them moving. If I'm going to be very quiet, so everybody sit very, very quietly now. Sit very still and just listen quietly. Now there you could hear all sorts of interesting things. You could hear the francolins calling. And you could hear the buffalo's feet falling on the dry leaves. You could also maybe hear them pulling the grass out of the ground. Now, when you're out here, you've got to be listening carefully all the time, because your ears are a very good way of telling what's just around the corner. What's not, your ears cannot often hear, is a spider. Let's go and see a spider with Brent.
So we've talked about habitats being everything, and even the smallest things can be a habitat. So what I've done is I've gone and found this dead log next to me, and there was a loose piece of bark, and I've taken it off, and we can see here, I don't know if can you see him, Vim? Or her, actually, it's a lady. Now that is the most poisonous spider, or venomous spider, sorry, we get out here. It's called a violin spider, and they often live under the dead bark, and you can see it looks quite similar to a daddy longlegs. So they often live there, and they catch all sorts of little hohos that come inside. Now, I don't know if we're going to see them over here. So there's a stick insect that the violin spider has caught. So it's probably eaten all the insides of that little stick insect out, and that's just the remnants left behind. But as I said, we're talking about habitats. Now here we have something, and if any of you have silkworms at home, doesn't that look a lot like a silkworm casing? Oh, got a fright. I thought there was a scorpion on my arm. Scorpions also live like this. Something just jumped out. It was a little bit of bark. But there we go. So there, you see that. Now that's probably from a moth. So the caterpillar has gone into a cocoon under here, and it's a nice safe place for it for the moth or butterfly to come out from. So it's amazing. If you look closely, there are little habitats everywhere. So in your garden, there's going to be multiple habitats. If you start looking under the bark or even under the grass, there's going to be a different habitat. But anyway, we're going to go put this back so all the creatures there can be safe where they were. I'm just going to be careful I don't squish the poor spider. It should be fine. So there we go. Oh, wrong way around. Put it the right way around. There we go. So that's how I found it. So even just under a dead piece of wood, there's a whole habitat with lots of different little species that are living there. Okay, let's go look for some more habitats and animals that live in them. Hi, Mia. Mia would like to know, do we ever see reptiles? We do, Mia, but it's quite cold this morning, and reptiles are cold-blooded. So they like hot days to move around, but we see lots of different reptiles. We see snakes sometimes. Liam actually had a snake nearly fall on him on the car. Our aerial hit a branch, and a little spotted bush snake fell out and landed next to him. We also see lots of geckos and lizards. And from the biggest lizard we get here, a monitor lizard, which can be as long as me, to tiny geckos that are as big as my fingernails. Lots of different reptiles. They are quite hard to see from the car. When we see reptiles, we're normally walking through the bush. We're going to keep checking for habitats. While we do that, let's go to James, who's got one of the most beautiful birds in the bush.
And beautiful it is indeed. There, everybody, is a lilac-breasted roller. And isn't he just so beautiful? So he will eat some of those. Excuse me. Sorry, excuse me. He will eat some of those spiders that you've just been seeing with Brent, if he can get hold of them. But mostly, he will grab things off the ground, like grasshoppers. Now, let's just see where he flies. There, he's flown up to the top of a dead tree over there. There. And he's looking for grasshoppers on the ground, and they fly down grab them and then fly up to a perch like where he's sitting, and then they'll eat what they've caught. And you can see him looking down all the time. Now, this is a very interesting bird because, as many of you will know, with birds that are colourful, often it's only the males that are colourful, and often the females are not. So if you think of sunbirds, which are very colourful males and very drab or dull females, same as a peacock. I'm sure you all know what a peacock is. They've got a big, bright tail that's many, many colours, and the female doesn't have anything like the same thing. The lilac-breasted roller is different. Both the male and the female are that beautiful colour. And lilac, you know, is the colour that looks a bit like purple. The breast, of course, is the front, is the chest of the bird, and so that's why it's called a lilac-breasted. And a roller, if you watch him fly, I don't think he's going to do it for us though, they do all sorts of interesting things when they fly. They roll around in the sky, and that's why they're called rollers. Lilac-breasted roller. Let's carry on, see what else we can spot. Now this poor tree over here, well, unfortunately, it's dead. And of course many of the trees out here will die and then others will grow, but this one, we think we know why it died. Now you all love elephants, you've all seen that elephant that Brent was showing you, and you all saw the tusks on the elephant. Now, what happened here was that an elephant, probably during the winter time like now, came along here, and I know it looks like this is a bit of a climb to get up here, but elephants are actually very good climbers. What the elephant did was it took the bark, remember this is the bark, Brent showed you the bark that he pulled off that tree. Well, the elephant would have taken the bark off all the way around the tree like this. It would have pulled the bark off, and that means the death of the tree, because remember, trees get their nutrients, their water and their food from two places. One, in the ground, they've got their roots in the ground, and two, in their leaves. Now, trees can make sugar from the sun and from water and from the air, the carbon dioxide in the air, which you'll learn about later on. But they make that in the leaves, and that comes down to the bottom, and then the roots send up all sorts of vitamins and minerals into the rest of the plant. But they've all got to travel inside the bark. And inside the bark they have veins. You know, like if you look at your wrist, if you look down at your wrist, you've got those things called veins there. Those veins move the blood around your body. Well, the tree's got a similar thing, and that's all under the bark. So if you take the bark off a tree like this, all the veins are gone, which means that the water and the vitamins can't go up to the top, and the sugar can't go down to the bottom, and so the tree will eventually die, and it'll become firewood. And while that's quite a sad story, if you happen to be a tree, it's not a sad story for many other animals, because now living inside here, we've got all sorts of beetles and wasps and probably various other things, and things like woodpeckers, which are, you know what a woodpecker is, a bird that comes and pecks. They come and drill holes in the side, and they eat the beetle larvae, and they eat the wood-boring bees, and so although the tree is dead, it's providing life for all sorts of other creatures, which I think is very clever. Nature is very, very clever, and you know when you even, oh look, we've still got some elephant dung here. Even that elephant dung will provide a little bit of a home for some termites. So when you're in the bush, you know, and you The elephant's blood, once it's come out of the ears, flows to the brain, and it keeps it nice and cool. I can't hear exactly what Brent's
At home. Thirsty go away bird. Two thirsty go away birds. A reptile, and there we go. There he is. Just his little head sticking out of the water. Looks like a hinged terrapin. There, he's swimming around. As it warms up, they're going to get more active. Now, that's his habitat. He needs water to survive. And he eats all sorts of little hojos that live in the water.
It's a squirrel. You want to go check that out?
Where?
On the side of the road, it's making noise.
I didn't hear it, sorry. There. Yeah. Go have a look. Sorry about that, we're back. While we were sitting at the little waterhole there, Viam heard a squirrel alarm calling, and earlier I said your ears when you're in the bush. I know James has talked about it as well. So if a squirrel sees something that impala, he shouts at it. So he's going leopard, he's shouting at a leopard, but because he's so small, squirrels will shout at almost everything. A mongoose, a big bird of prey like an eagle.
Now everybody, we've come along. I'm not sure if we're still with Rodine or not. Louise, are we still with Rodine? Don't know. Okay, well, we've got two interesting things here. We've got a buffalo and we've got a whole lot of wildebeest. let me say that again. I nearly said wildebeest, and then I didn't want to say wildebeest, and so we've got wildebeest and a buffalo. Now, they're not the same thing. Contrary to popular belief, there is the enormous buffalo, and I do know what, I mean, they can look the same in some situations, but when you see them standing together, that enormous buffalo bull is probably twice the size of one of these wildebeest. And what's interesting here is that for the same reason that impala ram was lurking about with the kudu, so this buffalo bull is hanging around with the wildebeest herd. Many eyes, many ears, many noses, looking out for predators all over the place. Now, my good friend Brian on the back of the vehicle here very cleverly spotted something in the distance. Now, I just want to show you how good Brian is at spotting things. Here, while we do that, there it is. You see that, everybody? Look who's hiding behind the bushes there. It's a big elephant bull. Lots of animals in this area. It's wonderful. Pierre, you want to know how long a wildebeest lives for? I think you'll probably find a wildebeest can live up to about 15 or 16 years. And again, if they lived in captivity, they would live for a bit longer, because out here, when you get a bit old, well, you know what happens. You don't kind of retire like we do as human beings. If you get a bit old out here, a lion will normally find you and then eat you, because you're not quite as fast as you once were when you were young. So we've got 3 different mammal species here. There's a beautiful big elephant bull. In fact, there are a few elephants in there. And we've got some wildebeest, and we've got some buffalo. Look at this buffalo in front of us here. See him there? He's a big bull. About 800 kilograms, everybody. Now, I know that you're about 8 years old each, so you probably weigh about 30 kilograms each, which means that that buffalo weighs as much as about 30 of you. Almost as much as your whole class, everyone. So you can imagine your whole class gathered together, put on a scale, you weigh the same as that one big buffalo bull. Isn't that amazing? There's a little road down there. I'm going to suggest we go down that little road and see if we can get a bit of a closer look at those elephants. It's a very beautiful day now. The wind has stopped blowing and the sun is out. Although it's still winter, it's still very nice out here. And you know, it's warmer down here in what we call the low veld. We're much lower down. You in Johannesburg there at Rodine, especially on the Houghton Ridge there. You know, St. John's is possibly the coldest place in Johannesburg. I was at school there for 12 years. It was very cold during the winter. It's about 1,600 meters above sea level. Now, over here in the low veld, we're only about 450 meters above sea level, which means it's much warmer. It doesn't ever get as cold as it does where you are. Everybody, the school is not with us, but we are still having a wonderful time with the animals here. We've got the buffalo, we've got the wildebeest, and there's some more warthogs. This is actually rather splendid, isn't it, Brian? Splendid. Warties, wildies, buffies, ellies, trees, birdies, insectes. Let's just roll slowly forward. I think this is wonderful. There's a great plethora of animals. Look at me. Oh, the camera won't even focus on him. Come on, look here. Come on. Totally blurry. Going to delete it. Not even going to show you. So embarrassing. Now, the school is apparently about to rejoin us, everybody. So we'll go through the sighting with them of happy wildebeest, frolicking warthogs, and elephants as well. Okay, let's move on down the road here. We'll just ease forward, because I want to see if we can't get a view of those warthogs for the kids. Louise, is there the kids with us yet? Right, hello guys. Ooh, now we've just come down here. There are a whole lot of wildebeest all over the place. There are some warthogs up ahead, and there's also an elephant not too far from here. I just don't want to move too far closely to those warthogs because they do run away quite a lot, and I don't know why they're so nervous of us. But they're one of my favourites, aren't they lovely? Look at those tusks looking at us through the bush there. That'll be the mother warthog. And her little babies are just through the bush in front of her. We're going to just roll slowly forward, and then I'm going to show you the elephant that my friend Brian managed to spot from a very long way away. You don't want the car to make too much noise and give them a fright. Got to be very, very patient when you work out here. If you want to see animals, very patient, very quiet. There we go. They seem quite happy now. So that's a sow. That's what we call a female pig. And her piglets. And these are very closely related to the pigs that you've probably seen before. Many of you will have been to the bush and seen warthogs before. But we call a female a sow, and the babies piglets. And you can see those noses exactly the same as the noses of a domestic pig. And it's turned into the most magnificent morning. That's the sound of a magpie shrike that you can hear behind us. And a dove off to the side. And it's always like this when the sun comes out. Everything feels very peaceful here, unless it's summertime, in which case it's very hot. Now, when you go around the corner here, we can start the car. There we are. And around the corner there is an elephant. Just going to duck out the way. There's quite a few bushes on this road. Watch out there, Brian. Brian's very tall. I'm lucky I just duck underneath them. And there are a whole lot of elephants actually, and a buffalo. Elephants and buffalo making friends with each other. I'll just try and get into a nice position where we can see them all. The pigs aren't running away, which is brilliant. They're all very close by to us now, only a few meters away. And there we are. We've got warthogs here, very close by to us. And just look at the female there. She's chewing, and you see the teeth on the bottom there. There we are. Those teeth there are so sharp, they're like razors, the bottom ones. So the top ones are actually quite blunt. But the bottom ones, because she rubs them against the top ones all the time, they are very, very, very sharp. She's done very well. She's obviously a very good mother, this warthog, because she's got 4 little piglets from one litter, and then that other bigger one at the behind there could well be also hers, or it might be an unrelated one who's just living with her. A wonderful sighting. And Josephine, you're in New York, not at Rodin School for Young Girls, and you want to know how long a warthog could live for. I think you'll find a warthog will struggle to live beyond 10 years, but probably more likely 8. So I'm not exactly sure what the longevity is of a warthog, but I'd say about 8 years. Again, in captivity, they will live a little bit longer. And there are some elephants there, just down through the bushes. There we are. And everything really does feel like the whole world is breathed out. It's taken a deep sigh of relief. Because it's just so nice and warm and so pleasant to be out here now. You see the tusks there? Those are the tusks that would have been used to strip that scotia or weeping boerbean tree that we saw earlier. And Gilly in the United Kingdom, want to know if an elephant would ever leave its herd and go off with another herd. Well, absolutely they would, especially if it was a bull. So the bulls don't stay in the natal herd. They have to leave their herds when they're about 17 years old. They become rambunctious like a 17-year-old human being, and their mothers and aunts will toss them out of the herd, and they can go and join a little group of bulls together. They may sort of trail another female herd every so often, but they will go and live on their own. Then it's unlikely that a female born into a herd will migrate to another herd with totally unrelated females. It's unlikely. I'm pretty sure it would have happened, and I guess one of the examples of it happening would be that if an orphaned elephant was found by a herd of unrelated elephants, which is unlikely, but were it to happen, and were there to be a lactating female within that herd, it's highly likely that the orphan would be adopted. But they don't migrate as a matter of course between herds, no. Isn't that lovely? I just think the colours at this time of the year are rather delightful, that yellow and gold mixed with the grey. Rather peaceful, isn't it, Brian? All around us, life exploding despite the fact that it's winter. So very unlike, I guess, a northern hemisphere winter where there's snow and ice on the ground. And there we are. Let's turn around and then we'll head back out and have a look at the wildebeest again with their friends, the buffalo. And I don't think you were with us when I was explaining, just like, remember we saw the impala and we saw them with the kudu. Now we've got a similar situation here, where we've got the buffalo hanging around with the elephants, and we also had a buffalo bull up here with a whole lot of wildebeest, and hanging around with the wildebeest for exactly the same reason as that impala was hanging around with the kudu. That is going to be a problem. We've just hit something quite heavy, I think. I'm not sure we're going to be able to reverse off it. No. Louise, I think you might have to go across to Brent to get an update from him. We'll see you just now.
Tisk Tisk Master Hendry. I'm sure James will be off there in not too long. So we're back with Liam and myself, and it's nearly the end of the sunrise safari, and it has been an interesting one. Nice to see that Sindile is moving again, so there's a good chance you're going to see him all over the weekend. Maybe he'll pop in for Saturday. I am going to be departing today for a short while. I'm going to be going on leave, but I will be back. Don't worry. I'm going to be down on the coast. You go to a wedding, do some fishing, maybe sleep in a few mornings. Joking. It's a funny thing when you wake up. The times we wake up every day, your body clock is so entrenched that when you want to sleep in, you can't. You end up lying in bed, tossing and turning. So rather than doing that, I always just like to get up. The one funny thing about when you are on leave and you're with people outside of the crew is that outside of the bush, everyone tends to go to bed quite late. And you find yourself sort of nodding off at dinner parties and whatnot. Looks like the cold front might be coming back. The temperature just dropped in the last 10 minutes. Hi, Virginia, who's in Kentucky. Virginia says they're having severe weather warnings, including tornado warnings, at the moment at home, but I'm wondering if we ever get that here. I think there's only been 2 recorded cases of major tornadoes in South Africa in a couple of hundred years. So no, we get dust devils, sort of small versions, but nothing really that uproots trees and removes roofs from houses and that. So we're quite lucky. It's a very stable sort of weather. We don't really get, we occasionally get downpours and floods from tropical cyclones off the Mozambique coast, but nothing really as scary as earthquakes or tornadoes. But I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And well, for the last few minutes of drive, let's go see how James got unstuck from the stump.
Yes, I got off the stump, everybody. It was a very well hidden stump, very small, very unobvious, very difficult to see. In actual fact, it was an enormous piece of tree sticking out of the ground that I just failed to notice. I'm not sure why I failed to notice it, but I did. But we got off it, and we seemed to be okay. And I think the accident looked a lot worse than it was. There was a white-crowned shrike there, and there's also a grey hornbill. Now, the much more common version is the red-billed and yellow-billed hornbill. And if you ever go to the bush and your guide says to you, there is a banana bird or a chili bird when referring to the red and yellow-billed hornbill, you must immediately fire him and get another guide. This one was known as the salt and pepper bird. Dreadful. And that one has got such a plaintive whistle. You know, the red-billed and yellow-billed make that kind of noise. It was pretty good, huh? There we go. That's Brian. That one makes a very plaintive whistling sound. That's all of the hornbill calls that we do out here. I don't know, the girls are still with us. Brian, will you quickly give them the ground hornbill? There we go. The final control of Louisi and Chelsea Bunn, and of course a big thanks to Brent Leo Smith, a well-deserved rest he's going to take now. He was being filmed, if I'm not mistaken, by Viam Dorenbraak. Now, making his world premiere today, this afternoon, Byron Sorrow of Johannesburg. And Byron, of course, was very much looking forward to seeing you, so please do welcome him and be very nice to him today. See you at 3.